The year is 2019. I'm in middle school, freaking out about getting the new Smash Bros. Game, while in New York City, they just greenlit a TV adaptation of the novel Station 11. The show follows a traveling Shakespeare group 20 years after an apocalyptic flu that left 1 in 1,000 people alive. If you haven't seen it, click off now, please. There's going to be a lot of spoilers, and frankly, it's just not going to make sense if you haven't seen the show. The show seems to be named after the in-universe graphic novel, also titled Station 11. The author of this graphic novel, Miranda Carroll, exists entirely in the pre-pandemic world, but her character has a distinctly post-pandemic feeling. She is referred to by her actress as a survivalist, and this attitude of survival is understandably reflected by a lot of characters in the post-pandemic world. However, in the graphic novel she writes, the character of Dr. 11 goes against this survival instinct, in fact, claiming survival is insufficient. We see him appear throughout the show in instances where Kirsten and Miranda had to do more than just survive. As Kirsten puts it,
when I read it, it didn't matter that the world was ending. Because it was the world.
There's a poem we see bits and pieces of throughout the show that can actually be listened to full on the official soundtrack. It's unclear whether or not it comes from the in-universe Station 11 novel that Miranda wrote, but it's undeniable that Miranda also wrote the poem. Now, this very short 200-word poem has a lot you could write an essay on, but I'm going to focus specifically on this 40-second clip.
I do know you from somewhere. If you notice, then you're known, and soon then you'll be loved. To be loved is a calamity for someone with your job. You have work to do. Work. Love makes work impossible. Love will try to see the words before it's finished. What is your job? Love will ask it. Then you will ask, what is my job? Then there's a you. Not to survive because survival is insufficient. No. The voices are confusing, and soon all I hear is, I don't want to live the wrong life and then die.
Miranda's job is in logistics. When asked what this is, she claims that it's
the path things take.
Her boss disagrees. To him, logistics is in fact
not the path, the right path.
But what makes something the right path? How do we judge whether or not you've taken the right path or just the path things take? Miranda spent her entire life in search of this right path, marrying Arthur, leaving him, finishing her novel, visiting him again, and deciding not to stay, to escape. She may claim to be
at my best when I'm escaping.
However, this retreat took her on the path away from her love. So, was that the right path, or just the path she took? And I'm not being facetious here. I genuinely want to explore whether or not that was the right decision. Because there's reasons that it might be, and there's a lot of reasons why it might not. But to answer this question, we have to look more closely at the relationship between Arthur and Miranda. When Miranda claims
love will try to see the words before it's finished,
it's a clear nod to Arthur, who she literally refers to as her love, trying to see her work before it's finished. She similarly claims,
if you notice, then you're known, and soon then you'll be loved.
So with these in mind, we get a clear picture of what Miranda defines as love. It's noticing and knowing. There's a trope called the noodle incident, which is named after a reoccurring Calvin and Hobbes bit that TV Tropes defines as, quote, something from the past that is referred to but never explained, with the implication that it's just too ludicrous for words, or perhaps too offensive for depiction, and the reality that any explanation would fall short of audience expectations. The in-universe Station 11 graphic novel functions as a sort of noodle incident, albeit significantly more explored than others and not at all played for comedy, other than the notable exception of Jeevan in episode 9.
So pretentious!
Which is one of the best bits in the show. So the main tie to this trope is the intentional vagueness the graphic novel is depicted with, though it isn't simply to avoid falling short of audience expectations. Rather, it invites both the characters and the audience to practice noticing and knowing. In the first scene between Arthur and Miranda, he notices her, then claims,
we know each other.
He doesn't ask if they know each other. No. He's certain that they do. Yet Miranda is certain they do not.
I don't think so.
Arthur later tries to reach out by analyzing her sketch of Dr. Eleven, which seems to work a lot more than his approach in the restaurant.
But his heart is warmer and lighter than they realize. Because he wears a suit for protection.
Oh, that's a banana.
In other words, she's more open to intimacy when it's through the lens of her work rather than herself. In their larger relationship, this dynamic was flipped. Arthur would claim that
He loved her, but she didn't love him.
and that
He didn't understand her art.
Tyler continues this story, saying,
After she left him, she called to say that she loved him. And they had that whole conversation in Spanish. She told him he had never asked her anything about herself.
That doesn't seem fair.
Igual nada más era muy egoísta, muy cabrón. Pero igual vale madre, ¿no? El antes no existe. Solo existe lo que está por venir.
I don't speak Spanish.
Neither do I.
Spanish here represents the act of understanding each other. Tyler, Arthur's son, may claim he doesn't speak Spanish, but what he's really saying here is that he doesn't speak his father's language. Neither did Miranda. I think this is precisely why Miranda's love for Arthur came more so in his death rather than in his life. She doesn't even say that she loves him to anyone else until after his death.
The man I loved died last night. And the man I loved died last night, and I went to work. The man I loved died last night, and I went to work instead.
In her poem, Miranda writes,
You will know your endpoint when you reach it.
Arthur didn't know his right path until he reached its endpoint. I mean, the show literally opens on him having a heart attack on stage, dying while
Doing what he loved most in the world.
as Jeevan says. Similarly, Miranda didn't know her right path until she reached its endpoint, a final act of love. While it's easy to assume that this final act of love was simply saving the airport, I'd argue that's only half the story. To save the airport, she talks to the captain of the Gichigumi plane full of infected passengers, hoping that he'll keep them inside the plane so the uninfected in the airport can stay alive. Once she gets a hold of his phone, the first thing she says to him is,
You don't know me, but my name is Miranda Carroll. I'm 40 years old. I was born in the Virgin Islands, and I lost my whole family to a hurricane. Hurricane Hugo. Maybe you know it.
I was named after it.
Then you get it. It's over. There is no rescue mission.
While her attempt to connect with the captain might just seem like a persuasion tactic, I think it's an act of love for him as well as for the airport. She tells him,
Everybody I loved and who loved me died right in front of me, Captain. A live wire came through our flooded home. I should have died too. But I was coloring up on the countertop. So I survived. The people in the airport.
They're on the countertop.
That's right. They're all up on the countertop now.
Now at this point, the captain seems convinced, but Miranda stays with him. She decides to connect. The last words they share with one another are,
Have you got family, Captain?
I do. A small one. My wife's not answering. Left a message.
What message did you leave?
I'd be home soon.
As Danielle Deadweiler, the actress for Miranda, puts it in an interview with Vulture, quote, "She's come full circle in that way, because it's not about her. It's not always about her. She has the capacity to take the last vestiges of her energy to express a deep, profound, unselfish love, and enable others to thrive and create and do something beyond survival." Miranda's story simultaneously makes an argument for and against work. When she found out that Arthur had shown her work to Elizabeth, she has a final conversation with Clark where he claims,
"It's just work. It's the thing you do. It's not life."
and Miranda responds,
I think that book ruined my life.
"So while her life may not have seemed to be the right path, I think it reached the right endpoint. Though she died, her work survived. Her work let others survive. Work is then integral to love. Love may connect through understanding, but our work produces what love connects to. Work, given this definition, is survival. And though the show may constantly espouse that
Survival is insufficient.
that doesn't mean it isn't necessary. Love doesn't make work impossible, as Miranda may claim. Rather, love is possible because of work's existence. And, at the same time, it's true that survival, that work, is insufficient. Loving one another, seeing each other truly, is integral to finding your right path. Work may lay the foundation, but love paves the path." In Hamlet, the titular Prince of Denmark enlists the help of traveling actors to perform the murder of Gonzongo, in order to see if his uncle Claudius had murdered his father based upon his reaction to the play. Truly a spectacular plan. In a brilliantly meta moment, Station 11 has Clark, Elizabeth, and Tyler performing Hamlet in a very similar play within a play that mirrors the play fashion. Except this time the purpose isn't to deduce a suspected murder, but rather to heal. To end the violence of the Undersea by ending the feud between Tyler and Clark. What truly heals this rift, however, is when Clark deviates from the script. When he tells Tyler,
"I loved him too, Tyler."
And through their shared love of Arthur, they're able to see each other, to know each other. This is precisely the power of love and work put together. Through a Shakespeare performance, a production of his work, they are able to learn how to love one another. And we can follow their example. By using art as a mechanism to know one another, we can both become better at producing art and better at producing love. And once you start to notice and know the work someone else produces and the work that they care about, you can start to notice, to know, and to love them. Thank you so much for watching. Making this was a really long process, and I have a ton I still need to learn, so please offer me criticism and advice and all that junk in the comments. I hope I can make Sam's rants into something bigger and better and more accessible in the future, so I want to know how to do that. I also want to do 2 special shout-outs. First of all, Sankofa Cafe. It's in the south end of Montclair. It's really, really good, and I got like 90% of my writing done there. It's a new Black-owned business, and you should really check it out if you can. Also, thank you to the library for saving me $80 and letting me borrow this mic. See you guys in the next one.